And that's what makes downtown kind of a neat area to work. Some days it'll be very quiet, like small town middle America, and then other times you feel like you're in the heart of a big city with multiple events going on and traffic and pedestrians. Business traffic slows down considerably in the evening. It's like two different downtowns. Lower town section of St. Paul here, where we're driving into, probably houses 80% of our residents of downtown. We don't have a lot of issues like with burglaries. We do have some situations where storage lockers are broken into, but the way apartments and these condos are set up, it's very hard to get into them.
I mean, if you consider population density, you wouldn't consider there being any more burglaries downtown than there would in a more residential area like Como or
I would think actually the rate of burglaries are probably less. Our theft from autos are probably a little higher because a lot of the residents park on the street, or the weak link to a lot of buildings down here would be the parking garage, where people leave in a hurry and don't wait for the garage door to close, and someone might slide into the garage and break into some cars. Theft from autos is probably one of the most problematic crimes we have down here. Panhandling is one of the hot topics downtown. It's no different than any part of society, even in suburbs, that only a small percentage of the people are the ones that we have contact with. Most everybody else is law-abiding and decent people that might be down on their luck. Generally, most of our calls for service downtown are within probably about a 3-block area of the Dorothy Day Center. Not inherently saying that the homeless community is responsible for crime or activity. It's just that we get a lot of calls related to alcohol, maybe some fights, street level incidents of a lot of people that live in a tight group. Certain panhandling or asking for money isn't illegal, but the city has an ordinance. You can't approach people in a crosswalk and ask them for money. You can't approach someone and ask them for money in front of an entryway to a restaurant, or within so many feet of an ATM machine, or at a gas pump. Mickey's is very few calls ever there. Mickey's is kind of a landmark in St. Paul, and they actually have a really good relationship with the people on the street that kind of live on the street. They are very kind-hearted. If someone only has a couple dollars, they will make that dollar work for something if they're respectful in their store. The hottest bus stops for transit locations for us that would generate the most calls for service are 5th in Minnesota, 6th and Robert, and Jackson and 5th Street, especially on nice days where it's just kind of more of a hangout than being used more of a hangout than transportation. Just kind of go from one stop to the next stop to see what's happening from downtown Minneapolis to here, and a lot of times we just end up with several hundred people at these bus stops. A lot of people think the police don't like the bars, but we like a lot of what comes down here seems to be very good for our job. Everybody's pretty well behaved. Don't get the big fights as often as some other bars, even on Grand Avenue, where they have a lot of college kids. The traffic and the activity in the Skyway, certain sections become very isolated after 5 p.m. The after hours Skyway calls tend to be more related to people that are using the Skyway system as shelter due to the weather. Some of the homeless community will find that there's places in the Skyway system they'll sit, maybe start drinking, or set up a little camp in there. The Skyway in itself is kind of a deterrent for a lot of the street level crimes that you might see in a city on the street or a sidewalk, because the egress and the escape routes are harder. Pretty much the biggest issues on the very far east end of the downtown area is theft from autos again.